Yo, what's good, YouTube? ZAMCRO here, aka Scoop, back with the International Trainers League, and we've got the Week 1 recap and the power rankings. And yeah, basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be recapping every battle briefly, and then giving my power rankings or my opinion on who performed the best in that in that particular week. And it for the rankings, the post-draft power rankings won't have any effect on week 1 rankings or anything like that, but week 1 and all prior weeks to the week that we're on will always have effect on, like week 2 will be affected by week 1. So if you're ranked really high on this recap, rank 2, you probably won't be 12th, basically. Anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and hop into the recap and talk about the teams and the battles, the matchups, and what actually happened. Alright, so as you guys can see, the Montreal Infernos were able to beat the Rocky Mountain Marowaks, the Sydney Sharpedos were able to beat the Zangooses, the Shamans able to beat the Wheezing, Zipstrikers able to beat the Cosmogs, the Arcaniners beat the Crobats in their returning match, which is pretty cool, and then the Reno Reggies defeated the New Orleans Faints. So I was 5 out of 6 on my pick'ems. I didn't expect. I knew it would be a good game. I knew it would be close, but I did expect Aki and the Portland Crobats to put George down, not necessarily beat him real bad, but I did expect him to win versus George in George's first game back. Anyways, that's pretty nice. And we've got the Pokemon of the week, in my opinion, Slurpuff. I think that it was played really well. I don't think the user's opponent prepped super well for Slurpuff in general, though, so that's something to think about as well. Anyways, we can talk about the matches in more in depth now, and we'll start off with the Rocky Mountain Marowaks. Excuse me, the Rocky Mountain Marowaks and the Montreal Infernos. Alright, so Alpha chooses to bring the Bronzong, Primarina, Megalopony, Garchomp, Rotom-Mow, and the Nidoqueen, and Sebi brings Mega Alakazam, Celesteela, Nidoking, Tangrowth, Clefable, and the Hydreigon. Almost forgot his name for a second there. And I believe Sebi leads off with the Hydreigon because he can taunt both the Bronzong and the Nidoqueen and survive any one hit from both due to its natural bulk. Unless Alpha's got some sort of tech that I'm not knowing about right now. Anyways, I think that's his play here, and he just taunts, and he's going to be able to U-turn out. But I think the turning point of the match was on turn 9. We're going to get there in a second. Alright, so basically, Sebi was able to just click Dark Pulse. The Primarina came in, he U-turned out into a Celesteela, and Alpha already showed Rotom to be the switch in to Celesteela. And Sebi prediction on this turn and goes for the Flamethrower, which is a fine play. And, like, Rotom can't take another one of those. It can't come in on rocks and take another one of those. So as long as Sebi kind of plays preservative and conservative here, he should, he's got, like, Alpha's going to have a hard time breaking Celesteela is what I'm trying to say. I had a tough time getting that out there. Anyways, this pretty much goes on for the majority of the match. Alpha just has a hard time breaking Celesteela. As you can see here, it's going to come in on the Sludge Wave. It's going to tank back-to-back Thunderbolts, which is just insane, and gets the lead sheet off. The Heavy Slam plus Protect. It's just a huge nuisance for Alpha until like late in the game. We're going to go ahead and skip to, I think, turn 44, 45 or so. So basically at this point, Alpha had positioned his Garchomp to click Fire Fang here and then put this Clefable in range of Tectonic Rage, and it drops. So now Sebi is actually able to bring in his Mega Alakazam, which outspeeds the remaining of Alpha's squad. And it actually has Protect too, so the Megalopony can't actually get a Fake Out off. But the Megalopony reveals to not even have the Fake Out. So yeah, Mega Alakazam coming through here, pretty much what I thought would happen. Celesteela being a nuisance, and then Mega Alakazam cleaning. Alpha didn't play bad. It's just that the matchup was so in Sebi's favor, in my opinion. But yeah, that was game one. All right, so the next game is actually we're going in chronological order, not in the order that's on the screen. So instead of the Zangooses versus the Sharpedos next, we're going to have the Wisconsin Weezing taking on the Venus Shamans. So we'll jump into that and talk about it a little bit. All right, so Helmet chooses to bring the Keldeo, the Komo-O, the Mega Venusaur, Zoroark, Jirachi, and the Landorus Therian. And Carson brings the Gothitelle, Abomasnow, Tapu Koko, Landorus Incarnate, Rotom Frost, and the Snorlax. So, pretty scary squad for both, in my opinion. Both Landorses are huge threats. Carson has Koko and he has Gothitelle to trap things, which is nice, especially to trap Mega Venusaur for Koko specifically. So I think both of them lead with their Landorses, and both are potential Stealth Rockers, and Landorus Incarnate is actually the only Stealth Rocker on Carson's team, and he actually goes for Hidden Power Ice, and Helmet switches out to the Keldeo, and this is where things immediately get tough as he goes for Sub, and I'm thinking it's going to be like a Sub Toxic Taunt variant to 1v1 Gothitelle, so that Mega Venusaur has an easier time, but it just gets trapped, and it actually becomes setup fodder, as you can see here. Tanking Scalds and Hydro Pumps. This Gothitelle is very fat, gets up some Calm Mind, some rest, able to tank Hydro Pumps and Scalds for days, and eventually it's going to get up to like +4, +6, whatever. And eventually it's going to fire off an attack, break the sub up, or excuse me, rest up, and then start breaking some subs again, eventually getting some attacks off, knocking out the Keldeo, and this is where things actually got interesting. So Jirachi comes in and clicks the low kick, baiting the Shadow Ball as a Zoroark so it could live one hit, and now goes for the knockoff, and Gothitelle survives on 4%, unfortunately, and is able to take out 2 Mons before being in range of Jirachi here, who goes for the power-up punch, which is actually a pretty nice take there, to get a boost before, potentially being revenge killed. Brings out the Landorus, and the Landorus is going to end up having coverage for the Venusaur with Psychic, and that's actually going to go ahead and bop the Komo-O for a 2-hit KO as it gets Rocks up, and Landorus just going in basically here with the Earth Power, and then the Hidden Power Ice is going to 2-hit KO Landorus. So yeah, that's basically it. Gothitelle trapping Keldeo was a huge problem because Landorus was really, really hard to revenge kill at that point without Keldeo to just come in and click Surf or Hydro Pump. But yeah, it's going to be a good game to both, and we can jump back into the next match, yeah. Alright, so like I said, we're going in chronological order, and game 3 is Skyrise, coach of the Goldenrods of Strikers, taking on Phantom Base, or Tyler, coach of the New York Cosmogs. And Tyler's brought Mega Metacham, Ferrothorn, Florges, Zeraora, Mega Latios, and the Mismagius, where Skyrise has brought his Slurpuff, Zapdos, Weavile, Haxorus, Metagross, and Donphan. So yeah, pretty cool matchup here. And they both play really, really well. They both play conservative here. I guess the most aggressive play was actually this turn 1 Toxic by Zapdos, predicting the switch out to maybe like Florges or the Mega Latios or something. But yeah, that's about the most aggressive play. Basically, they switch into their checks pretty comfortably here. Steel Top coming in on Florges here, doubles out to the Zapdos, expecting potentially Ferrothorn to come out and maybe bop it with the Heat Wave. Goes back out into the Metagross, which is a pretty conservative play. Ferrothorn is a pretty conservative play here. He doubles back, predicting it again, and actually gets in his Zapdos here and can go for the Heat Wave. Misses versus the Zeraora, which is a little bit unfortunate as he doesn't get to know any of the set, and he gets taunted and prevents the Toxic. Here's a little bit of an aggressive play, I suppose, as he goes for the Grass Knot on the incoming Donphan and pops the Rindo Berry, which is really, really nice. Now in comes the Ferrothorn once again, as Sky goes out into his Haxorus and doubles out into his Zapdos. Pretty safe play there. And yeah, just going to double out into a Slurpuff, predicting the floor just here. And here's where things get interesting. Skyrise was waiting on an opportunity to get in Slurpuff based on his based on both team compositions and what they said, I think, after the match and how they played this match. The game plan was for Sky to get the Slurpuff in here versus something a little bit passive and set up a belly drum immediately. And then it has the Drain Punch, I believe, for the Ferrothorn, and able to one-shot it because the Ferrothorn doesn't have a Chopper Berry or anything like that, and probably couldn't have one-shotted the Slurpuff regardless. So actually with Gyro Ball and the Unburden Boost, perhaps it could have. So maybe if it was Chopper Berry, he could have put a stop to this Slurpuff sweep, but it looks like that's going to be game actually, as the Slurpuff can just spam its spam return really, and play rough for the ghost type. You don't want to miss. So you use return versus anything that would that's not real bulky. And yeah, everything pretty much dies to the Slurpuff. Tyler didn't play bad. He just got caught off guard by a nice set by Sky. It's tough set to prep for, but I believe that Chopper Berry on the Ferrothorn could come in handy next time. But yeah, that's a good game to both, and we can move on to the following game. Alright, game 4 in chronological order features none other than Gypsy King himself taking on Marin Varen. So the Sydney Sharpedos taking on the Zagreb Zangooses. Pretty cool matchup here. Some very potent squads and powerful players. I don't know Marin that well, but the way Gypsy King spoke of him in his draft analysis, I believe, it sounds like he's a really good player on the up and coming, so that's nice to know. And he decides to bring the Licky, Victini, Rotom Wash, Tapu Bulu, Scizor, I think that's Mega Scizor, and the Lycanroc Dusk. And Gypsy King brings his Kyurem Black, Magearna, Tyranitar, which is Mega Tyranitar, Gligar, Tornadus Therian, and the Magneton. So I think both players are going to actually lead off with their electric types, Rotom Wash and Magneton respectively, and just Volt Switch out of there for momentum. But with the Magneton going first, that brings Kyurem Black in on the Rotom Wash, as Marin's actually able to Volt Switch out into his Lycanroc here. And Gypsy plays a bit aggressive here, staying in on what could be a Stone Edge, and just goes for the Earth Power as the Lycanroc just gets rocks up. And here, Marin's going to predict the Kyurem to 100% switch out this time on the potential Stone Edge, and he's going to pull a switch out into his Rotom, predicting potentially the Gligar, but he actually goes for the Earth Power again, playing super aggressive with his Kyurem Black early on. And here's where things get interesting. Marin's going to bring in his Licky, and he's going to throw off a Wish as Kyurem subs up. And these Earth Powers are bouncing off. Licky tries to break the sub, and then it's going to reveal that it can't actually do that without a Swords Dance here. It's going to reveal Swords Dance. It's going to go to +2, and Gypsy's going to go out into his Gligar immediately and start cursing up. But what's going to happen is Marin's going to get a critical hit, but Gypsy's going to play around it phenomenally. He's going to go into his Magneton and throw off a Toxic on the Wish, and he's going to hard switch out to the Tornadus on a potential Earthquake, which the Licky reveals, and then he's going to go for his Z move versus this 88% Licky. It's going to do 55%, I believe, and put Licky in range of Magneton's Volt Switch after Toxic damage, which is really nice. Yeah, so he played around that phenomenally, brings in his Magearna, but I believe Marin brings in his Victini. Anyways, we're going to skip ahead a little bit. Alright, so eventually what's going to happen here is the Kyurem Black's going to be able to roost up, and the Bulu's going to switch back out into the Mega Scizor, predicting that the Gypsy King is going to go out into his Magearna. I assume he was predicting that, or just was going to be able to take on the Woodhammer. Basically, Gypsy needed an opportunity to bring in Magearna and click Shift Gear, as it's going to be able to survive this +2 Bullet Punch from the Mega Scizor. It's going to be able to knock it out with the Hidden Power Fire, and from here it's going to be able to Use a Gracie Terrain boosted energy ball, knock out the Rotom Wash, 2-hit KO the Tapu Bulu with Dazzling Gleam, and then it's going to be able to one-shot the Victini and the Lycanroc respectively. So Magrina coming through there in the end, and that's going to be a good game to both. Alright, so Game 5 features Aki VGC taking on Sceptile MC, where both players brought quite a bit of what looks like bulky offense, and basically just had a lot of checks to each other. George made a ballsy play there standing versus the Manaphy though. Anyways, it rests up, reveals the hydration and whatnot, and this Gengar is going to reveal Assault Vest as it tanks a Hydro Vortex in the rain from a Manaphy. Of course, it wasn't boosted, but still very impressive nonetheless. But Manaphy able to chew up hits and actually pulls a switch out to the Naga here and is going to just U-turn out. This thing's kind of busted, getting U-turn. Reveals Life Orb though, and goes for the Hidden Power. Potentially ground there for the Heatran as well, and probably Heatran is EV to survive that or whatever. Anyways, gets a Toxic off on the Mandibuzz, which is pretty cool. But Mudsdale, shows to be a huge issue, and this Toxic actually, a huge issue as well. And here's where things are going to get a little bit funny, as George goes for the Solar Beam and didn't know that the rain actually reduced the damage. So a little bit unfortunate there. Otherwise, Manaphy could have potentially been knocked out. Anyways, as you can see here, the para on Heatran is going to be nice for the Mawile to get this nice brick break off, which opens up holes for Scarf Serp, as you'll see later in the game. It's a nice bring. Mew goes for the Flamethrower here after surviving the Sucker Punch, and Roost is up here, so nice little mind games going on. Is he going to Roost? Is he going to click Sucker Punch, Flamethrower, and he's actually able to get that with probably the most health he could have got out of the turns, which is really nice. And then brings in his Mudsdale, his Mudsdale here on the Naga, taking a Draco to the face. And this thing gets a speed boost, so that's interesting. No special attack boost. Kind of, I'm not sure what the thought process behind that was. I guess to outpace potential Scarfers. And Mandibuzz is going to be taken out here by the Air Slash. And then Scarf Surf able to glare the Scarf Togekiss. Dies, but still, nonetheless, neutralizes a huge threat. And brings in the Manaphy here as he goes for the Tail Glow. As George hard switches into the Kartana, which was probably his best play, but still not able to survive a +3 Manaphy surf there. But Mew able to outspeed, potentially a speed tie, and knock out the Manaphy, and able to roost up on the Marshana as it goes for the Thunder Wave, which was not a bad play at all. But Marshana being an issue here, the Togekiss is going to want to switch out, the Mew is going to want to switch out into the Togekiss, and despite being paralyzed, should still be faster thanks to the Scarf. It can just trick that Scarf away, and gets that berry there, gets a lot of health back. But the Healing Wish brings the Naga back almost to full, or basically to full, but rocks, and then the Life Orb damage puts it in range of Mew. And not able to knock it out there, and the Mew's going to be able to claim a knockout here with the Psychic, and George picking up a narrow 1-0 victory versus the GOAT, Aki VGC. But very good game, very fun to watch, and we can move on to the final game now. Alright, so for the last game, we have Nova Hawk taking on Eric, and Eric has, coach of the Reno Reggies, has the Mamoswine, Tapu Lele, Mega Kangaskhan, the Kricketon, is that right? And then the Alolan Muck and Tyrantrum, where Nova Hawk or Playoff P has the Raikou, the Gliscor Charizard, which is Mega Charizard X, Cresselia, Greninja, which is the Ash form, which is pretty awesome if you ask me, and then Toxapex. So it's going to be nice to see this match. I was looking forward to it. The threats on both sides of the field are really, really, threatening. And the Kricketon's going to lead off here, probably has webs, but the Greninja lead's going to probably negate that as he switches out into his King. Able to take that Surf, which reveals to be Specs damage, pretty comfortably, and throws off a Wish there. I think he's going to get burnt here, which is a little bit unfortunate. But this is actually a really fun match. He gets his webs up there, but Gliscor able to defog away, forces out with Mamoswine as he goes for the knockoff, predicting the Cresselia, and able to Toxic that thing as well. Kind of negates that thing being a huge threat. Hard switches into the Mega Kangaskhan, which is going to be able to Wish up again. So Wish Protect Kang is a really, really nice set here, and he reveals to have Power Up Punch, and he's going to be able to 2-hit KO the Toxapex there at +2, which is a huge threat. However, check this out. Charizard comes in and goes straight for the Dragon Dance, does not give a fuck about a +2 Mega Kangaskhan, but goes for the Dragon Claw, and the Haban Berry kind of negates Charizard's damage, and the Head Smash is going to be able to take that thing out. He's going to save this thing, though, for Sack Fighter later in the game. Goes into his Alolan Muck, knowing he can take 2 Surfs from a Specs Greninja. Gets his Berry, he'll be able to recycle, so on and so forth. However, it does knock his Specs off, so it's going to be a little bit harder to net a knockout with Greninja at this point. Sacks off the Tyrantrum, though, and then Mega Kangaskhan is going to come in here, and it's going to do its thing again, throwing off some wishes. Goes into the Cricketon, which just drops the discharge from a Raikou, so that's some pretty nice damage there. Perhaps it's modest, I think, with outspeed. Even the Mega Kangaskhan at max speed, so that's really nice. However, Tapu Lele comes in, gets it +1/+1 Calm Mind, and goes for the Side Shock, knocks out the Raikou in one shot. And then the Greninja comes into Revenge Kill, but in comes the Muck again. And then here's where Mega Kangaskhan is going to come through again, able to set up with a Power Up Punch again, able to 2-hit KO Cresselia pretty comfortably. Unfortunately, it's going to end up right here with Playoff P coming through with a Fire Fang Burn and a flinch there, which is insane. But Mega Kang able to just Power Up Punch more and more, Wish Protect, Power Up Punch until it gets to +4 attack. You know, kind of negates the burn. It's basically at +2 at this point, and the Gliscor isn't going to be able to roost off this damage, or not consistently anyway. But it is in range of Greninja. Greninja able to pick up a knockout there, get its Ash form. But without its Specs here, had it been Specs still, had it not got its item knocked off, it could have been in a lot better position. I don't think it would have knocked out still, but it would have did quite a bit more damage and would have forced the Muck to attack probably sooner. Either way, I think probably Muck would have walled it anyway. But yeah, it's going to be a good game to both, and that's going to be it for week 1. Alright, so obviously, by standings, you know, you could just look at the differential and stuff like that, but I'm looking more towards performances and things like that for the power rankings. And given on all the coverage we just looked at, stuff like that, I have made a 1 through 12 power rankings. So let's go ahead and hop into that. Alright, so my post week 1 power rankings have the number 1 rank at the Golden Red Zipstrikers. We have the Montreal Monfernos at rank number 2, the Sydney Sharpedos at rank number 3, the Reno Reggies at rank number 4, San Francisco Arcanines at rank number 5, the Venus Shamans at rank number 6, and then from 6 to 12 we have the Portland Crobats, the Zagreb Zangooses, the Rocky Mountain Marowaks, the New Orleans Faints, the New York Cosmogs, and the Wisconsin Weezing. Now, I'm not necessarily saying any of these teams play bad, but I do think that they're ranked in the order of their performances for week 1, and I know like the most important thing are wins, and the top 6 teams got to win, so that's the most important thing. And then outside of that, the most important thing is your performance overall, and I think this pretty much sums it up. I think Skyrise had a pretty tough game versus the New York Cosmox and Tyler, and he was able to, he made quite a few doubles and positioned himself to where he could put Slurpuff in a position to belly drum up and sweep, and he did just that. It was a phenomenal game. And a nice performance there. And the Montreal Monfernos, they use Celesteela really well, able to withstand most of his opponent's squad's attacks, basically living everything. The Rocky Mountain Marowaks didn't really have a way to break Celesteela, and whittled everything down in range of Mega Alakazam, and Mega Alakazam could come in and sweep from that position. The Sydney Sharpedos play phenomenally around getting crit. RNG is always a tough part of the game, and it is part of the game, so we do have to put up with that and all that bullshit. And this man played around it so well, and basically, it was phenomenal. It was flawless the way he played around it, able to eliminate that threat, and then put himself in a position with Magearna to win in the late game, so that was really nice. And then the Reno Reggies, they brought a nice Mega Kangaskhan set, which just caused Nova Hawk and his New Orleans Paints so much trouble. It was a really nice game to watch, and he played it really well, in my opinion. I felt he had all the defensive checks there, and had some cool techs as well to catch the Charizard off guard, and to be able to break through his defensive core with Mega Kangaskhan, which is really awesome. George played really well. Him and Aki both played well. Aki, obviously, on the losing side, but still, I think he played the best out of all of the losers. I don't think anybody was a loser this week. Everybody played pretty well. I know getting a 6-0 loss sucks, Tyler, but again, I don't think he played bad. I just think Sky played really well and positioned himself. And then the Venus Shamans. They played really, really well. I think they caught Helmy off guard with the Gothitelle, trapping the Keldeo really, really early, and then putting Landers in a position to where it wasn't easily revenge killed. And yeah, it just started to wreak havoc from there. And like I said, Aki played real. Portland Crowbats, I think, deserved the 7th spot. The Zagreb Zangooses didn't play bad at all either. I think there was some missed opportunities to attack the Kieran Black, but outside of that, I don't really think he played bad, and I think he's deserving of the 8th spot. And again, Alpha played well, just didn't have a way to break Celestilla with the squad he brought, so I think 9th is pretty deserving. The New Orleans Faints, the New York Cosmotics, and the Wisconsin Weezings are the bottom 3 teams, but again, they didn't necessarily play bad, just caught a little bit off guard, and their defenses were able to be broken through, and that's basically it. And yeah, I think that's a pretty fair power ranking, and we can move on. I think I'm going to talk about some trades and do the week 2 pick'ems right now. Alright, so during week 1, or maybe even prior to week 1, but after the deadline for trades that will be active for week 2 for the ITL, we're having quite a few trades, a lot of different changes to a lot of different squads. First off, we've got Marin Varian, coach of the Zagreb Zangooses, dropping Aromatisse and Drampa for Rabambi and Servine, and giving Zervine Z-user options, which is really nice. So next up we have the New Orleans Faints, who are trading or dropping Cresselia and Chansey, and adding Celebi, Frostlass, Licky Tongue, and the Slay King, which is really nice. I think that was a really good trade for him, or a free agency transaction, I should say. And Aki actually made a trade with Tyler, dropping his Alolan Ninetales for Tyler's Decidueye, but then dropping to free agency Decidueye, Baratic, and Omastar for Tyranitar and Ferroseed, and then using Rotom Heat as a new Z-move user over the Pert and the Baratic. And that's all active week 2, like I mentioned. And Helmy dropped the Keldeo after it's got obliterated in week 1. He dropped it for Savali, or he dropped it and Silvally for Chansey and Cloyster and Xatu. Seeing the Keldeo on board now, Gypsy King dropped a ZAMCRO for Keldeo, which is really nice. And like I mentioned, all that's going to be effective for week 2. And Marion actually ended up dropping Seismitoad and Swampert, or Seismitoad for Swampert as well. Aki dropped Mandibuzz and Swampert for Conkeldurr and Dusclops also. And then I think the last trade of the week was George dropping his Jolteon, Flygon, and his Zangoose, and picking up the Magnezone, Zygarde 10%, and the Lilligant, so that was really nice. And at this point, he didn't make a new Z-move user, it's just Kartana still, for now. I think he will have the options to, make some changes to that in the future. But yeah, that's going to be it for week 1. Basically all the games, all my thoughts on the games, and all the transactions that's going to be effective for week 2. And we can hop into our week 2 pick'ems now. Alright, so for my week 2 pick'ems, we have, I have the Montreal Monfernos over the Wisconsin Weezing. I think Celestilla is a huge issue. I think the things that can break Celestilla on Helmy's squad are Alolan Marowak and Pikachu without like setup or anything cheeky. And then, Sebi has a lot of checks to those, so I think the Montreal Monfernos will grab that. I think, he's just got too much power. His speed tiers are there. Mega Alakazam just revenge kills everything on his squad once they're weakened enough. Once Chansey and Jirachi are weakened, Mega Alakazam can just go ham again after Celestilla weakens everything. And then he has like some really good resist in this matchup, so I think Sebi's going to have this one. I believe that. Next up, we got the Zangooses taking on the San Francisco Arcanines, where I have George winning. Close match. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think George is going to pull it out. Another close victory. Um, he has Mew, Togekiss, Heatran, a lot of nice checks to things um, that Marin Varian can bring. Of course, Marin has some nice checks as well to some of the things that George can bring. They both have a lot of offensive pressure, but I think George is going to, like, coming off a big win versus Aki, and Marin coming off a kind of a disappointing loss. I know it's always hype to play Gypsy and test yourself, and then coming off a loss when you could have potentially won when it was a really close match like that. I just think George is going to have enough momentum to go into this match with a decent matchup and go in there and grab the victory. Next up, we have the New York Cosmogs up over the New Orleans Saints. I think, despite his loss in Week 1, I think, he didn't play bad, and he's got a phenomenal squad. I think Nova's got a really cool squad as well, but I don't think he'll be able to break through Tyler's defenses in this matchup specifically. I think Tyler can deal with, his offense and kind of break through things like Toxapex, Gliscor, and Tapu Fini pretty comfortably. Next up, we have the Rocky Mountain Marowaks, and they're facing off against the Venus Shamans, and I think this is going to be a hell of a match. I really think that both of these squads, are very powerful, and then not only that, but both of these players, like I mentioned, played really well in Week 1. Alpha lost, but again, he didn't play bad. He just didn't have sufficient way to beat the Celesteela. So I think this is going to be a really good match. I think it'll be tough to consistently play at the level Carson played at in Week 1, but if he does, he could potentially win this match as well. But I am going to give it to Alpha. I do like Garchomp and Mega Lopunny a whole lot, and I think they're going to be a little bit of a difference maker for things like Mega Coco. About said Tapu Koko. It's speed tier. Mega Lopunny's able to revenge kill it, potentially with fake out and return. So that's really nice. I do think Landers and Carnage a huge threat, but I think Alpha will be able to play around that with things like Levitate Bronzong, Suicune being like Spadef variant, Uxie with Levitate as well, and then like Primarina being naturally bulky on the Spadef side. So yeah, really nice matchup there, but I think I'm going to give it to Alpha and his Rocky Mountain Marowaks, especially coming off of a loss. I think he's going to be dedicated to win the next one. Next up, we've got the Sydney Sharpedos taking on the Goldenrods of Strikers. Now, this one's a hard one to call because, both of these battlers are phenomenal, and both of them have really scary squads. I'm going to give it to Gypsy, though, because he has McGarren and Kieran Black, basically. It's just too powerful. I feel like Reuniclus can put in a lot of work in this matchup as well, and just given, both of their bulk, both of their offensive capabilities, the Regenerator on Tornadus Therian and potentially Reuniclus, McGarren's Shift Gear, Trick Room options, it's just too much to kind of prep for. And I think Skyrise coming off a big win will have room for error and might not necessarily use this as a scouting opportunity, but kind of a way to gauge how creative he could be with his team versus a squad like Gypsy's. And then Gypsy, he has McGarren, Tornadus Therian, Kieran Black, and he built with a really fat Kieran Black in Week 1. He could come out with a more offensive Kieran Black in this week, or he could go bulky again. I know he does want to be creative with his squad, though, and yeah, just Gypsy's track record in high quality battles. I'm just going to have to pick Gypsy. The Sydney Sharpedos, they're just too good to bet against, really. So I'm probably never going to pick against the Sydney Sharpedos. That's just that. And last but not least, we have the Portland Crowbats facing off against the Reno Reggies, where the Reno Reggies finished off Week 1 as the last team to play, but they come off with a big victory where they used Mega Kangaskhan really well, like I mentioned earlier during the recaps and stuff. And the Portland Crowbats are actually coming off a narrow 1-0 loss. Both of these guys played really well in Week 1, but I think their momentum alone and Aki's still getting used to his squad is going to be the difference maker. And I think the Reno Reggies are going to come out with a nice victory here. But yeah, that's going to be it for the Week 2 pick'ems. That's going to be the Week 1 recap, the Week 1 power rankings, Week 1 transactions that are effective for Week 2, and the Week 2 pick'ems. So yeah, that's going to be it, I guess. I don't really have too much else to say, and it's going to be, I guess it's a pretty long video itself anyway. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.